If you're writing a book about actors and actresses in Hollywood, today's episode is going to break down everything you need to know from a professional actress who has been in movies you and I have not only heard of, but absolutely adored in theaters, on television, and more. We have so much good information from Laura today, so we're going to jump right in, but please note that everything we talk about today will be down in our show notes below with the links and with further links to help you with the equipment and tools of the trade that you might need to learn in order to explore what you're going to do inside of your Hollywood-inspired stories.
Hi, I'm Laura Cayouette, and I've been an actor for almost 30 years professionally, but I am best known for playing Leonardo DiCaprio's sister in Django Unchained, which was a Quentin Tarantino movie, one of 4 movies that I made with Quentin. And I've done TV shows like Friends and True Detective. I recur on Queen Sugar, which is Oprah Winfrey and Ava DuVernay's television show. And I've done movies like Now You See Me, Enemy of the State. Anyway, I've been around a long time doing a lot of this stuff. I'm also the author of 8 books, a number of fiction books, including a series, a mystery series, and a book on writing and a book on acting. And I have a master's degree too. I have a master's degree in creative writing and English literature. So there's that. And I was Distinguished Alumni Award winner at my alma mater.
And I'm so excited to have you on the show today because you are so involved in so many different aspects of creative storytelling. And so because you are an author, we have a unique perspective with you inside of the acting world, and we're going to break down how authors can be writing Hollywood and acting in a more authentic way today. So I want to jump right in. You've been in so many movies and so many TV shows, and we're going to kind of go behind the scenes on that process as well. But I want to start off with, what do we need to know for people who want to become actors or who are stepping into the world of becoming an actor? What are our job specifications here?
Oh, a high tolerance for pain, a healthy appetite for rejection, and a way to care for your finances till you figure it out as an actor. The first thing you should know is that 99% of the people in our union do not make enough money to live. And it's not actually that easy to get into the union. So that's 99% of the people that figured out how to get into the union. They make not enough money to live. 5% make about $5,000 a year or less, and 1% make enough money to pay their bills and have health insurance and things like that. So I'm in the same 1% as like Tom Cruise, which is just
wow.
So yeah, so that's the first thing to know, is that it's it's not a get rich quick scheme. Yeah. And think I'd like to think of it as more like wanting to be in the NBA. If you want to be in the NBA, you get it that that's going to require quite a bit of work on your part, and you might have to be exceptional and also lucky. You might have to have talent, skill, discipline, hard work, sweat and tears, blood, actual blood. Like it is a grueling job and a grueling industry and a grueling career, not for the faint of heart. So if you don't have the energy to, make it as a pro athlete, you probably don't have the energy to make it as an actor. But many actors are not about making it; they just want to work, and for that, there's plenty of room, and more room than ever, because our diversity has opened up in a whole new way recently. And so there, I've always said I've been coaching for a long time as well, and I've always said to everybody when they say, do you think I'll get work? Everybody has a place in this industry, but maybe only one role. Everybody has at least one story where they're the perfect person for that story. The mom on What's Eating Gilbert Grape comes to mind, where that was the only role she ever played, but she was so brilliant. I can't even think of that movie without her. She was so brilliant. But, it was hard for her to do that work. She was morbidly obese, and it was, difficult for her to even show up for work, much less do the task of the work. So it wasn't a good career for her, but an amazing performance. And film is forever. So that lives on forever and forever. So yeah, as far as getting into it, there is many ways to become an actor as there are people doing it. But I chose a traditional route of going to conservatory training. I trained for 3.5 years in New York at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts and Roundabout Conservatory, and then did a bunch of off Broadway, off. Don't get lost on your way, off Broadway. Um, and then when I moved to LA, I did another, I was there 18 years. I think 13 of it I was in class full time with Ivana Chubbuck. Before that, I was at Beverly Hills Playhouse with Milton Katselas. So it's like ballet dancers go to class until they retire. Actors ought to be learning until they retire because it's a muscle that needs stretching and strengthening every day to be good. And I wanted to be really good, so I started by getting good and getting training. A lot of people just jump in. Leonardo DiCaprio just jumped in, and he was a child actor, and he, for better or for worse, what that could do to your life, but he, most of his training is on the job training. And the way he got in was because he was a super talented little kid, and he lived in the area, and wasn't hard to get discovered for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. So, when it comes to furthering your education as an actor, what are some things that actors or actresses may do to make sure they're developing their skills?
Well, one thing I tell people to do all the time is that if you want to act on, well, if you don't want to act on camera, if you want to do theater, there are opportunities everywhere for theater. I mean, that's just a thing you can make happen. But if you're hell bent on it being about film, which I'm a huge film lover, so for me, I wanted to be in the movies because I love movies. Um, One thing you
Mhm.
can do, and one thing I tell almost everybody I coach to do, is to seek out student films at your local university. And in particular, if you have a university in the general area that has a master's degree program in filmmaking, I would, a graduate program, I would seek out those projects because those directors have already achieved mastering their craft as undergrads, and they've already
Right.
made films, and they've already maybe even gone through the process of getting SAG paperwork so that they can hire union people, or any of the things that would take it up a level. So if you
Uh-huh.
work with people in a graduate level program, then you're working with people who already know what they're doing. They already have a ensemble crew. They have, like that you could get some really good tape from that. But even if you don't get good usable tape, you're getting the experience of being on set and working. And the other thing that I know, there are two minds about doing background work, but I didn't, I'll be honest, I didn't do a lot of background work. I know a lot of people, that's where they start and they do a lot of that. I did not, but I wanted to learn what it was like to be on a big budget movie. And I wanted to watch Spike Lee direct. And I
Okay.
knew that this was in the late 80s, early 90s. So I knew at the time that he did not make movies with white people in them. And so I thought, okay, so if I want to work with Spike Lee, then the way and watch him do what he does, the best way to do that is to be glad I can't get a job with him, because then I would be busy working and I wouldn't be able to observe him. If I am a background person, I can actually pay attention to what he does, pay attention to how his set runs, pay attention to what everybody's jobs are, and where do I fit into all this whole mess. And so I only did one day of background work, but I chose wisely somebody that I really was interested in. And
Right.
yeah, and I feel all the better for that experience. But I realize in retrospect that it was way helpful to be on set and just see how it all works. What's normal?
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And you did mention that there are kind of different levels when it comes to acting, and some of them are part of the union. There is SAG involved with some of these things. Can you kind of break that down for authors?
Well, almost every project that you'll ever see on television or film is going to be a union project. Almost every single project you're going to see is union. Even at this point, even your newscasters are predominantly union unless they're local in an area where you don't need that. But like Louisiana is a
Okay.
right to work state, and here in Louisiana, many of our newscasters are union. So basically, anything that's in front of a camera is union, and that's. I don't think I have to explain so much why it is you would need the protection of the union, because all of you have heard now of hashtag Me Too, and all of you know
Yeah.
that we are extremely unprotected in this
Uh-huh.
industry. And even with the power of the union and all of us paying the same amount of dues,
Mhm.
women are over half of the union.
Right.
97% of us reported having been assaulted at work. So it's a
Mhm.
dangerous environment for anybody,
Right.
but especially for women and children. And so, you need a union to protect you. You want to be part of the union. I did anyway. And they protect your wages as well in perpetuity. So
Mhm.
children's children, their wages would be protected because we make money as long as the show goes, as long as the movie goes.
Right.
So,
Mhm. And that's a really interesting point to bring up because not a lot of people know that royalties do keep coming to you even well after the movie has been produced and out in theaters and is out on DVD and out on
yeah.
streaming platforms. So it's
We have
important to
Lucille
realize.
Ball and Desi Arnaz to thank for that, by the way. They invented the rerun and therefore the residual.
Yep. I love Lucille Ball so very much, and we do have quite a bit to thank them for.
Yeah, we
Now,
do.
yeah, there are a lot of people who really built up the movie industry and have really implemented a lot of themselves into how things work today. And so I think it's always a really good idea for authors to be Googling that and looking up who has actually impacted the industries in ways that they may not realize. But that actually brings me to my next question. I want to talk a little bit about what a typical day looks like as an actress. So if you are working in the movies and you are an actress in a movie, can you kind of tell us the behind the scenes of what that looks like on set?
Now, I'm assuming you mean after we get the job, because the day in the life of any actor is you're looking for work. You're looking for work. You're almost
Yeah,
always looking for work. And it's very rare that you actually get the work. But once you get the work, if that's what you're talking about, a normal day, when I actually, I have my acting book, I actually wrote what to expect on a normal day. Like, what do you do every step by step? Because even because we can go months or even years without working, even we need
right.
to be reminded what's a normal day, because you could go like 6 months without a normal day. So yeah, when you first get there, there's trailers everywhere, and there's uh, people walking around with headsets or walkie talkies or whatever, and everybody's very busy doing whatever they're doing, whatever their department is busy with. And so it's this sort of behind the curtains of the circus kind of vibe when you first arrive. And you find anybody, because they're all connected with those headsets. So you can find any person at all that's just breathing and say, where am I supposed to go? And they'll help you find your way to your trailer. And then you put your stuff down in your trailer, and there's usually contracts in there, and you have to fill out your contracts. And somewhere in there, you're going to get interrupted. You'll probably have to fill out your contracts like 4 different times during the day, because you'll keep getting pulled away and go back and pulled away and go back. But in any
Sure.
case, so then somebody from hair and makeup, you get started in there. But at some point, they're going to want to know your breakfast order. And then that's all going to be a thing of like, well, wait, I don't want hairspray on my food. And can I finish? But I need to finish it before I get my makeup done, or maybe finish my makeup and then I'll just eat the eggs cold or whatever. So there's all timing is never with you in mind. It's with all the different departments have to get everything done. And so it's just a checklist
Right.
of everything getting done. It's not like done in the order you would choose. It's just all gets done. So once you're in hair and makeup, that's a culture unto itself. Um, like people confess to bartenders and priests, makeup artists and hair artists are the same confessional. That is like a beauty shop or
Okay.
a barber shop, and it's that same sort of where you go to find out if somebody's into you, or whether they're married, or why is so-and-so angry today? Or I heard so-and-so got arrested last night. Do you know what it was about? Or, whatever. I saw so-and-so interviewed on this show and he said da-da-da about this and da-da. So that's all the meantime you're getting made beautiful or awful. I mean, you could be in a horror movie and being made, you could have teeth coming out here. Who knows? So it's where the magic happens. And there's a lot of details to what that environment is like. That's a very unique. I tried to capture the makeup trailer in one of my books, and it's a lot. It's a lot. It's very specific. And then you get to do a whole lot of waiting for your turn to be in front of camera. Sometime during that waiting, you'll be called in to do a rehearsal. That has nothing to do with acting. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions, not just that outsiders have, but that actors have. Actors think that rehearsing means they're going to rehearse. They're acting. And rehearsal means blocking for the camera, the microphones, and the lights. So maybe you get to do some of your acting. Maybe you get to say some of your lines in a way that's not just marking a spot, but mostly you're there to do technical marks. You say your line and they say, okay, where are you going to be when you say that line? And you find your spot and they have to figure out where the light and the mic would go for that. And then, and then I'm going to cross over to here to do this line. And, so that's what it mostly is about. Then you wait some more. And usually, you're not in wardrobe yet because that's a whole lot of waiting. You might have a meal in that time. Every 6 hours you eat. So, every 6 hours you are fed a meal. And in between, you have craft services, which is a snack tray. It's like an area where you can just grab nibbles all day. And then while you're working, there are 200 other people working. And I'm not being cute with that. I'm saying 200, literally 200 people. We had 400.
Oh, wow.
So those people are, doing everything from adjusting lights and sound and all that to putting colored marks of tape on the floor where your feet are going to land to mark, or putting sandbags, little T's made of sandbags where your feet are going to land. Or maybe they're taping down cables so that when you walk through the room, you don't trip over their electrical cabling, or maybe they're working with set props, or maybe they're bringing you things you're going to touch or eat, or, there's so many jobs and there's so many moving parts at all times. So when you see these intimate, I love you scenes, just remember there's 200 people going right off of the camera, So
that must be so awkward to do some of those up close intimate scenes and have so many people around just judging.
Well, even if they're not in the room with you, they're in what we call Video Village, which where the monitors are, so that the director and key members of the crew, usually the top people of every department, are standing in Video Village, which is a monitor or several monitors showing what's in front of the camera at that moment, what's being shot. And in between takes, they might all race in and fix things. So you do a take and then the director yells cut, and it might be 5 people coming at you, somebody tugging at this and making sure this is right, somebody adjusting your mic and doing all this, somebody powdering, somebody doing your hair, and then they all disappear again, like a pit crew for a race car.
Oh, I love that. And I feel like I would love that in real life too. If I could just have a team of people come in between my interviews and just fix things, that would be incredible.
I like hair and makeup. I enjoy when they do the thing with the, oh my God, I feel like it's like a massage. I just love it. It feels so good. I like it. There's so many people who hate getting touched.
Okay. That's a good thing to note, authors. Pay attention to that one.
Yeah, there are a lot of, especially men, and men putting anything near their eyeballs, they all turn into 2-year-olds that want their mommy. It's so funny that women are like, driving and putting mascara, and men are like, when you get anything near their eye, because they're not accustomed to it. And it is a natural reaction to close your eye if something's coming at it.
Sure.
So
Sure.
yeah, so the men especially hate the eye stuff, I've noticed. But you can also need all body makeup too. I mean, it can be an all day thing, or you could need prosthetics, or I mean, it depends on your role.
So, in your opinion and of your observations, do you feel like men who have more acting experience, who are in a lot of movies and a lot of productions, are less squeamish about things being near their eyes? Or is it just kind of a universal, they always hate it and it's never going to change?
What's interesting about not just men, but actors in general, is that just like any other job, we find what workarounds, cheats, areas that we just won't do our job right, things like that. So, there are people for whom hair and makeup is such a big darn deal that it's not worth the effort. You just wouldn't hire them for a role where it mattered.
Okay.
Like bad guys that play bad guys.
Sure.
What does it matter if they're powdered? Just let them be.
Fair enough.
Who cares? It's not worth getting into an argument with Jack Nicholson over, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying I'm not saying he's got an issue. I'm just
Sure.
saying he plays a lot of bad guys with a lot of makeup.
Yeah. Good
So
example.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, women, the biggest thing women do is that they all see themselves and go, oh, this doesn't look like me, and try to fix the makeup in the mirror with their own makeup. Well, you're not playing you, so
Right.
it's not supposed to look like you.
Right.
But women have a hard time looking in the mirror and being met with this other person's face. It would be a mistake to change the makeup, not just because the makeup artist knows way more about the character than you might, because they've been working with that director maybe longer than you have. So
Mm.
they've maybe read the whole script and you might not have. Like, there's a lot of things that could have gone in the direction of them having way more information, way more access to the powers that be than you do. So that's one way it can be wrong. But the other way it can be wrong is that they understand camera. I actually don't know about camera makeup. And when I see my makeup in real life, I always feel like I look like a mannequin, like plasticky kind of look. And then when I look at it on camera, I'm like, oh my God, it looks totally natural, like I don't look like I have any makeup on. So they know stuff you don't. That's why they have a union job themselves. That's a union job as well. And you need a skill set, and you need to, so every job on set, people understand that you're not allowed to touch. People know you're not allowed to touch the electrical cords. They know you're not allowed to touch the lights. They know you're not allowed to touch the microphones. But for some reason, they feel like it's okay to touch their hair and makeup. I don't know why they don't.
Don't do that.
But it is common for people to want to, because people wrestle a lot with their egos when they
Right.
yeah, because you're going to be on camera, and there's something about that that throws people. The idea that you would be recorded forever with the whole world watching, and have it be something you're uncomfortable with.
That makes a lot of sense, and it is one of those things that as we're writing stories about actors and actresses, it's good to keep that in mind, because we will have our egos and we will have things that we feel we would naturally do that we can't actually
Right.
do on set.
Like, sit down. I have had many roles where once I'm dressed, I can't sit down because the clothing I'm wearing is so specialized. So, it's all like, it's wardrobe. It was expensive, as one of a kind. It's fitted to me. It's
Right.
whatever. And so a lot of things that I've worn, once I'm dressed, I cannot sit down, and they'll have like a ladder or um, it's like a recline chair that, I don't know. It's like a thing that you just lean. It's like a pizza
Oh,
board,
wow.
and you just lean on the, yeah. Or they'll have,
Okay.
or you just walk around. You just walk around all day waiting. And it could be
Sure.
literally 10 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours, 18 hours. You could be there all day and never shoot.
That is a fair point. So let's actually talk about that a little bit. What does the structure look like for a typical day on set? I know it starts early, sometimes it goes late. It can be a couple hours, it can be a very long day. So what does
So
that
it
kind
doesn't
of
start
generally look
early and it doesn't go late. It starts whenever it starts. So it could
like?
be
Okay.
3 in the morning. It could be three in
Okay.
the afternoon. And first, you're fed when you get there, no matter what time it is. We call it breakfast or first, yeah, breakfast.
Okay.
And then your first meal, which is lunch, could be at 4 in the morning. It could be, it's 6 hours later.
Okay.
And
Okay.
if you're still there another 6 hours later, then they feed you a second meal. And we call that second meal because it doesn't usually happen. Um, but the days are different for TV and film. TV is a little easier to deal with schedule wise. Um, TV can start like early in the morning and go till late at like a regular job.
Uh-huh.
Film just does whatever the lighting and the location and the schedules of the actors, et cetera, et cetera. It's a totally, it's a whatever happens happens kind of environment. And it also, we have a thing called turnaround. There's 12 hours between shooting. So if I'm let go at
Okay.
3 in the morning, I'm not allowed to come back till 3 in the afternoon unless I get special permission because it costs them money. So
Okay.
yeah. So that can mean that, like, say Monday you start at 6 in the morning and you do 6 in the morning till 9 at night. So now the next morning you can't start until 9 in the morning, and you go 9 in the morning until midnight. Okay, well now the next morning you can't start till noon. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So
I see the cycle.
yeah, so you might be by the end of the week starting at 9 at night to just finish.
Wow.
I went to
Okay.
work one time on a Friday night and came home on a Sunday morning.
Wow, that's a lot.
I
That's a
called it a
very long Yeah.
yeah.
That's quite a bit of work time. So, when it comes to being called to set and you have to go and do your job, how long do you typically spend shooting as opposed to getting ready and doing all the other things and waiting around? Is that a very short time, does it feel like, or is it a bit of a longer time?
It depends on your role, how big your role is, and how many scenes you have. I've had days. I remember one time I was shooting one movie, and another movie wanted to borrow me, and they called. The producers of both movies were friends, so they called each other and arranged
Okay.
this without me participating, and
Okay.
just presented me with this plan and said, are you down with this? They asked me to shoot 19 scenes in one day. That's
Wow.
yeah, yeah, 19 scenes in one day. And my record is 21. But
Wow.
yeah, but 19 scenes in one day means I worked all day in front of the camera. I didn't have breaks. I didn't have rest other than for food and bodily functions. I had no,
Right.
yeah, I just worked from the second I arrived until the second I was, and by the way, when I was done, a driver just drove me straight to the other movie.
Oh my goodness. That is so much work in one day. So I have to ask then, if you are doing things back to back like that, how are you learning all of your lines and learning all of your blocking? Is that something you do in between the scenes that you're shooting, or do you have to figure all of that out in advance and just have it banked in your brain?
Well, most people audition to get a part, so they have had some experience of at least one or two scenes of their character
Okay.
because they had to do it to audition. So there's at least one or two scenes that they have down, or
Okay.
have some idea about how and they've looked at the character and broken down the character in general and figured out, who is this? How am I playing this? Where am I going with this? Um, there is no normal. There is no normally this or normally that. If you're a movie star, then you would be in more scenes than your coworkers. So
Right.
you could expect to work most of the day. But it was a movie star who made the famous quote, uh, They don't pay us for the acting. The acting we would do for free. They pay us for the waiting around.
Mm, okay.
So, and when I say waiting around, I mean epic amounts of waiting around. You can learn entirely new skills. You can, hobbies,
Okay.
but it's a lot of waiting.
Okay. So then let me ask, during all of this waiting time, you do have the ability to then learn new skills and bring up new hobbies and all of these things.
Or work on your
Is
lines.
exactly. Are you able to have access to things like your devices so that you can learn your lines on your phone, or is that something you would have to do off of the set in your trailer?
Well, when I train people, I absolutely think they should not be working. I don't think you should have your phone at work, period, at any job. I can't think of a job where you need to be talking to your friends. So I don't think you should have a device with you while you're working. But you do need to have your script, and I would suggest that it be a handwritten thing that you've written a bunch of notes on that is your copy that belongs to you. That in your trailer you have this thing that has all your notes that you worked on, breaking down the scene and the character and your research and all that kind of stuff. Um, for me, I like to be very secure about the character I'm playing and very certain of who it is I'm playing. Uh, but that said, I can break free from the character I'm playing and also be Laura while I'm on the set. I don't have to, stay in character. There are some people for whom being at work means being in character the whole day, where you have to call them the
Right.
character's name and you have to, that whole thing. Um,
Sure.
yeah. When we did Django, we were not allowed to have our devices on set uh, because it was the 1800s. And Quentin was trying to protect that.
Right.
He was like, I don't
Mhm.
want to have you be like coming in off the street of like, in the world of the world and then have to readjust. I'd like for it to be this thing of like you're just in this world today and you're just yeah,
Okay.
and obviously that's not real because, we have electricity and we have all these things, but toilets, but
Sure.
it is, it's trying to respect the space he's trying to create for the actors and for the filmmaking
Right.
crew in general of like this is set in a time, let's honor that time.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. What else do we need to know about being on set? Are there things that authors should be looking up? Are there keywords that we need to know? Any terminology we should be Googling later on?
Well, there is a lot of terminology in our industry, and most of it's words that you use, but we use differently. Like, for example,
Okay.
the phrase on the day. So, like, say you're at work and oh, people think the directors talk to the actors a lot. The directors often are technicians. They have technical skills, so they talk to technicians all
Okay.
day. They speak
Okay.
to actors very little, and when they do, they speak only to their leads usually, or whoever's having a problem. Whoever
Mm,
they're having a problem with. So if the director's talking to you, that isn't necessarily a good sign. Um, but oh wait, now I forgot what I was originally going to tell you.
We were talking terminology and on the
Oh,
day.
so on the day. So for example, if the director says to you or to the electrician, or if they say, "All right, well, I see you have it this way, da 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 da, but on the day I need it this way." What they mean is when we roll. So on the day doesn't mean next week or on the day could mean this day. It just means
Oh,
in the moment when we're actually doing it.
okay.
So
That makes
that's a real phrase that real people use, all the time on the day,
sense.
but we use
Right.
it differently. And that's a lot of our
Mhm.
terms are terms that you use, but that we're using differently.
That
So,
makes a lot of sense. Okay. All right. So I want to step back just a little bit. We've talked about being on set. We've talked about what it looks like to work with everybody on stage and on set. I want to talk a little bit about the auditioning process because we know that is the vast majority of what you're going to be doing. So trying to find different jobs that you can do, figuring out if you're qualified, going through the audition process. Can you kind of give us an overview of that?
well, for most people, their jobs come from auditions, and for most people, um, up until the COVID, because of course now everything is totally different.
Sure.
So if you're talking about the first 98 years of Hollywood, then it all basically boiled down to you would get a call, a notice, an email, whatever, depending on what era we're in, that would tell you the details of the audition. You have the option to accept or decline. And then once you accept the audition, you start the researching process. For some actors, and I would say that most actors who don't have any training, the first thing they do is start memorizing lines. For actors who either have worked a lot or have a lot of training, that is not the first thing most trained actors do, because they know they're going to remember the lines or not, and that's not how they're going to get the job.
Okay.
Well, because if it was about reading lines, they would just print the script on a screen, wouldn't they?
Right.
Or they would just have us all do this, like just read the script. So it's not about, it is about the dialogue, it is about the line, but that's not why they picked you. They didn't pick you for your memorization skills. So the first thing to do is to figure out why they picked you and fulfill that.
Mm-hmm.
And I do a lot of very detailed work. So that's one thing I like to do right away, is to start trying to fill in my details. When you get your sides, they're called sides. That's the pages of script that they're going to have you audition with. Okay. When you get your sides and you break down, that's another term, you break down your sides, what you're doing is you're looking for the beats and the moments and what they all mean, what it's all about. You're breaking down your objective, what it is you want from the other person in the scene, which is, by the way, the sort of definition of drama is, I want something from you and I need to get it, or I won't be okay. And that's the scene. And the scene from your perspective is, you want something from me and you have to get it or you won't be okay. And that's drama, because what if we don't want the same thing?
Right.
Oh no. Yeah, so I immediately start looking for ways that I can individualize my characters. And one way to do that is to choose an objective that's personal, or that's off the beaten trail of what would be the first thing that would come to my mind, like what might be the second or third thing that might come to my mind. Because whatever's the first thing that comes to your mind is probably the same first thing that came to
everybody.
Yeah. And if you read the script as read, which is something you should do, like on one take, you should read the script as written in one take. Then, you'll prove that you have the ability to read what they wrote. But in order to get the part, you probably have to read the script through your own lens, through your own interpretation. Now, that doesn't mean changing a word. Don't change the words. I mean, finding, oh my God, no, I say no. That's my agent.
Oh! And sometimes this happens, author, so.
So, anyway, so it's an agent I can say no to right now. So, but in any case, yeah, you want to find the thing that's going to elevate you out from the crowd, that's going to separate you out from the crowd, that's going to bring you, that's going to make you stand out without sticking out, so that they notice your audition. Even if they don't think you're right for the role, they might hire you later. And that is the long game. When you're auditioning, the part is not what you're trying to get. What you're trying to get is their respect and attention to get a career out of them.
Oh, that is so well said. Okay.
Yeah.
I love
that.
And
the reason that 99% of actors don't make money is because 99% of actors they don't understand the basic equation. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and they get caught up in the success and failure of getting this job, not that job, or you can't do it that way. It's a career. It takes a whole life to have it, and you're not going to know when your first job is. I went on 104 commercial auditions before booking my first commercial.
Wow.
Terrifying. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
Because how many times do you, like on 97, don't you think, maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this?
Right. You
On
never
102,
know.
aren't you like, it's never going to happen? So, that can be very scary. Now, after that, I booked over 60 national commercials, and so it was fine. But it took
Yeah.
104 for me to get the right, you know, thing
Yeah.
going for it to be my turn.
That makes a lot of sense, and I feel like it relates back to the publishing industry as well, with authors attempting to query their books and get those contracts, and maybe it works and maybe it doesn't, so the same is applicable to the acting realm
Very
as well.
similar. Very similar. It's one
I
reason that
love
I
it.
self-publish because when
Yeah,
I started, there are many reasons that I self-publish, but and I might not always, but there are many reasons I do. But one of the major ones is because it's an area where I just don't feel like dealing with the process of rejection again after I'm so tired. So,
sure. Well, you have a lot that you have to go through and have that acceptance or that rejection on a daily basis, so that makes a lot of
and
sense.
I'm really hard on me. I mean, I think a lot of actors, a lot of entertainers are really big critics.
Right. Oh, yeah, for
Yeah, because
sure.
we have to
Because
make all these decisions.
yeah. A lot goes into it, and, when we see everybody else interacting with us and judging us and having opinions of us, we can be extra hard on ourselves because it is such a creative outlet and people are seeing us and so much of our
Inside.
souls, so that
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Alright, I want to switch gears just a little bit because I want to talk about one of the big questions inside of experts for authors. We always talk about what the entertainment industry gets wrong about the occupation we're talking about. So, this one's a little fun because we're going to talk about what Hollywood gets wrong about Hollywood and also what Hollywood gets right. And I know you've got some good examples for us. So, kind of give us an overview.
All right. So what Hollywood gets wrong is like basically every frame of La La Land. So like just erase, erase, erase La La Land. And that movie actually made me angry. By the time she was like in her 20s getting to have a baby and a husband and a career, I was like, "Are you kidding me? What fiction is this? This makes less sense than when they were dancing on the highway. What are we doing here?" Like it was all just like no. Because real actors have real lives and real actors
Right.
have you know the ability to have babies and all that stuff, but you don't you have to pick.
Right.
Yeah, you
Sure.
can't have it all. When is that? You can't even have it all if you work at McDonald's. How the heck are you going to have it all if your whole life's on camera? Like that is
That's
not
true.
it's nonsensical. So
Mhm.
so everything about La La Land is just
It's a little much.
it's something. It's something. But the performances are terrific. Um,
Oh, yeah.
uh, the thing is that you're right. Mostly they get it right. Um, they mostly get it right what it is to be in the industry and what it is to be behind the scenes on a set, um, or in the movie making process. As I was looking up which movies get this right, one thing that I noticed that I hadn't really put together before is that almost all the behind the scenes, peek behind the curtain movies about entertainment are not about actors.
Okay.
They're
Okay.
about
That's interesting.
producers, directors, writers. Yeah, I thought so
Oh,
too. I thought so too. I
that's
was
really
like,
interesting.
huh, I would have thought more of these in my mind. All of them are about actors, but
Right.
almost none.
Huh,
Almost none. I had a very hard
interesting.
time finding ones that were about the actor from the actor's point of view.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, Hollywood, there's your cue. I guess we know what's coming up next.
So that's but um some of the things they get wrong that I notice and feel like I need to like either fill in my family and friends that, oh, it's not like that. Um,
Mhm.
that we would find out we don't get the part. There's
Mm,
a scene in movies where they get a phone call saying they didn't get the part.
right.
I've been doing this since the 80s. I've gotten 2 phone calls to say I didn't get the part.
Wow, okay, so typically they just leave you hanging, that's
You
not
just
fun at all.
don't, yeah, you just don't hear one way or the other.
Okay. That
So
must be really interesting when you kind of see other people have actually gotten the part or the movie has been made or whatever, and that's how you find out you for sure did not get that part.
a lot of us have something we call IMDb Pro.
Uh-huh,
IMDb Pro is the International Movie Database Pro, which costs like 120 a year, I think. Um,
okay.
but I think you can buy it for a month if you were researching. In any case, IMDb Pro is a place where we can find out who got those roles we didn't get or what movies are in production.
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay,
So yeah, so we can track it. You know, I can
okay.
look up. Now it's not all kept up in real time. It's kept up by producers and their assistants, so it gets done when it gets done. But
Right.
eventually, yeah, you can look up. Um, I had auditioned for a Scorsese thing, and I was, and I didn't hear back from them, and so at some point after, with a movie, it could take 3 months to hear back.
Right.
So it took me a
Mhm.
while to give up on it, but when I finally gave up on it, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna go look on IMDb and see if somebody got it. And sure enough, there
Yeah.
was a girl who looked like a shorter version of me who had gotten it, which is
Oh,
almost always, it's almost
always
always somebody who looks like me, only shorter, or who is Ashley Judd. Just somebody who's like the famous version of me. So
of course.
yeah,
That's so funny.
Nicole Kidman, whatever. It's just somebody that's the famous Charlize Theron, whatever. So yeah, um, but that's a big one that they think that we would be included in information about the choices that were made about our career. No, we are not. We are not. We sit by the phone like a prom date, just waiting.
Oh,
And
worst.
uh, now we self-tape. So that's another thing, is that we're self-taping and sending them in, and we don't even know if they see the auditions anymore.
Okay. Right. I
Yeah.
have a lot of actor friends who have been talking about their self-tapes, so can you kind of give us a little brief overview of that?
Well, one thing that movies often get wrong, before I get into that, is that the idea that it's not even movies, television has really done this in. People watch America's Got Talent and they just assume that when I go to an audition, when I come out, there's like, all my cousins and a glitter sign. Congratulations. No, I have had nobody come to my auditions. What are you talking about? Would you go to your child's job interview? Would you go? I mean, no, nobody comes to my auditions, and um and it would be weird if they did. I don't even know. And had a glitter
Right.
sign? What would that? I don't get it. So, but now we self-tape, and so now some of us actually are with family during auditions because they're reading with us.
Okay.
I I joke all the time about the glamorous life of a movie star when I'm like doing my laundry or mopping my floors or whatever. Last night
Uh-huh.
I had a pillow spring a leak last night, and so I went to go take care of it, and I had everything swept out onto the front porch. And I yelled back to my husband. I said, "It looks like I massacred a chicken out here." And then at some point, as I'm raking and sweeping bird feathers everywhere, I was like, "Yeah, glamorous life of a movie star," because it just happens over and over.
Okay.
You're like, "Yeah, for this I studied Shakespeare," but but nowadays my husband is a very big part of my acting career, because he's my reader. He reads with me, he tapes me, he does all the work that the casting directors used to do, is all now on him. So
Right.
that's weird. My tripod sits in my sink,
Okay.
and I am standing in like just against a white wall in my house, um, staring at a camera that's in a sink. and with my husband off to the side reading with me. It's all very weird. It's all gotten very, very weird.
It sounds very interesting. Now, previously, when you were in a room with people, was that a larger crowd of people watching you audition, or was it a smaller group of people?
It's usually between 1 and 10. 1 is normal, 2 is normal, even 3 would be normal-ish esque.
Okay.
Yeah, you have the casting director and somebody running camera usually, or the casting director is running camera, and then there's a reader, or but there's a few duties. There's the casting process, there's the reader, and there's who's ever running camera and running computers and things like that. So that can take up to 3 people depending on what kind of day they're having, what kind of budget they have, etc. So yeah, 10 would be like for a producer's callback where it's down to you and just a couple other people. Maybe it's just you and one other person, and everybody's going to weigh in on it. So they've brought
Okay.
everybody in. The biggest amount of people I went to was when I was testing for a half-hour TV show on NBC. Um, it was down to me and another woman. That was the weirdest experience because they have you sign your contract before you go in.
Oh,
So, yeah, it was
okay.
back in the early 90s. So I no, mid 90s. So I signed a contract to be paid $30,000 that day if I got the job. And then,
Wow.
like a quarter of a million if I had kept going. And so I
Wow.
signed that paperwork and then go into the room, and it was standing room only, and I was having an out of body experience, but I think there was about 40 people in there.
Wow. That is a lot.
Yeah,
It's a
because it
very
was all
crowded room
the network, it was everybody. It was the showrunners, the writers, the producers, but even the studio executives, the network people, everybody were all there. The head
Wow.
of the whole studio was there, like everybody.
And that really isn't something you're going to see very much of unless you get pretty far in the process, correct?
Yeah, like somebody like Matthew Perry was on Friends. That was, I think, his ninth pilot when he got that
Okay.
show. And so he was pretty used to going in for, if you've gotten 9 pilots, then you've auditioned for probably at least 15. And if you've auditioned for 15 pilots, then you've auditioned, I mean, if you've gotten testing for at least 15 pilots, then you've probably auditioned for like a couple hundred, maybe 1,000,
Right.
I don't know. But yeah, so by the time he's getting into the room with Friends, he's like used to it. And a lot of the same people that were in the room for me were in the room for his thing for Friends. There's a lot of the same people that
Right.
were, it was NBC. So, yeah,
Right.
so it's a, there are all these saying about what it's like to be an actor. One of them is that it's like standing naked and turning around very slowly.
Lovely. That is a lovely picture, and it must be very uncomfortable.
Well, that's the reason I'm telling you that. Almost every single part of an actor's job is outside of a comfort zone. It's one reason that Me Too was able to happen so rampantly, is because we're so used to not being comfortable. We're so used to everything being a no in our minds and a yes out of our mouths, that
Mm,
it's perfect grooming for being able to cross those
sure.
lines.
Right. That does make a lot of sense. So, how has that impacted everything moving forward, especially for actresses who are maybe somebody that authors are going to be writing about? Is that something that we need to kind of reframe for more modern and contemporary stories than it would be in the past?
Oh no, it was way worse in the past. It's better now than it was in the past.
Yeah.
Oh no, no. Harvey is just a a recent iteration of a thing that's 100 years old. The industry's 100 years old,
Right.
and the abuses toward women and children are 100 years old. Um, yeah, no, it's no, we're better now than we were in the 70s. We're better now than we were in
Yeah.
the 50s. We're better now than we were in the 20s. It's better now, and that should make you want to vomit.
Well, yes. Yes, it does. Given everything that has come out and all the things that everyone's had to experience, that is a very terrifying thought for what people of the past have had to go through.
I will tell you how I handled it. And again, this is another one of those things that I felt like I had to write out about in my acting book, because there is no other
Cool.
acting book that addresses this, and it's happening to 97% of women in the union. So it's a topic. There's not one chapter in one acting book about it. So I thought, well,
Okay.
let me address what to do if it happens to you, or if you witness it, or blah blah blah. But the thing that used to be normal, the thing I used to advise people, I'm now ashamed to say this, but the thing I used to advise people is um, that it's really all about the male ego. And as long as you're not bruising the male ego, you can say no in a way that gets you out of the situation without damaging your ability to get work.
Okay.
So that's how it used to be, was that you would try and find the balancing act between your safety and their ego, and try and make it about how you found them attractive and you found them desirable. You just couldn't because they're married, or because you're Catholic, or whatever. But if only, kind of thing, so that their ego is intact and they still feel doable, for lack.
Right.
um and you get to keep your job.
Right. Mhm. That makes a lot of sense, and now, of course, we do have more resources available to everybody, and now that it is more talked about, there can be more conversation on it moving forward, which is also a good thing to be implementing into our stories as we're creating this based on what time frame we are creating those stories about Hollywood and acting and movies in as we are writing. So I want to talk a little bit about equipment of the trade as we're getting toward the end of our conversation today. So we've talked a little bit about your sides and your scripts. What else do we need to know in terms of equipment actors might be using?
Well, we all have wardrobes for people we've never been. I have had a wardrobe for a suburban mom that I have
Okay.
cultivated. I've cultivated the suburban mom's wardrobe and kept it current since 1980s, I think. 90.
Wow.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
have never been a suburban mom, and I have no plans. I'm now officially way just too old to even think about becoming a suburban mom, unless I were fostering or adopting or whatever. So I've never been, I'm not her. I'm not her, but I play her on TV. And in order to play her on TV, I have to own a pair of khakis and a pastel boat neck shirt and some Keds and, all that kind of stuff. That's the
Mhm.
suburban mom uniform. And
Right.
as the suburban mom uniform shifts and changes and evolves, my wardrobe had to do the same. I own several business suits for being a
Okay.
lawyer, or a CEO or whatever. Again, jobs I have never had. I've never been. I've never really needed a suit for work, and yet I own. I shouldn't even tell you this. I own a Donna Karan, an Armani, all these
Wow.
suits, because I would buy them for red carpet events or whatever, and then that I would buy smart so that I could wear it for. Yeah.
Right. Sure.
So wardrobe would be a big tool that we have to have. Um, and for some of us, like, I live in a secondary market now, but the 18 years I lived in LA, I usually had clothes in my car, and a lot of actors have clothes in their car. Um, Especially, like, men will drive around with a suit in the car. You never know when you got an IBM guy or whatever, and a razor, because men often have to shave on the fly.
Right.
Um,
Mhm.
I I used to drive a Miata, and I would have to change in my car.
I'm sure that that was quite the experience as well.
I'm just so glad we didn't have cell phones back then and no cameras and all that, because I I put on shows for those of you who are paying customers, but I put on a lot of shows for free, just trying to get my job done. I mean, when you got to change, you got to change. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so uh, it's different now. Now the equipment we need every single thing a casting director has. You need a camera, you need lighting, you don't have to have a microphone, but you should. you need tripod, you need software, you need editing software, you need you need all the equipment that it takes to record and process, edit, filmed material. So you can do it with your phone, your iPhone, but even then you still are going to need a whole bunch of other tools. So,
Right. And
and
authors, as you're
printer,
writing,
you need a printer
mm-hmm.
for your scripts.
Right.
I mean, you need email, you need to be able to get online because almost everything's done
Mm-hmm.
online. You need headshots. They need to look like you. You need a resume that's updated at all times.
Mm-hmm.
There are a number of websites that we have to participate in and keep up to date,
Okay.
that list. They're either sites that we get our sides through, or they're sites that we are listed through as actors or whatever, but all of those have to be maintained. I'm trying to think what else it is that we use. I will tell you that a lot of the things I use are things that are research dependent. So, for example, when I was doing Django, I knew that we were going to be wearing clothing from another era. And I was going to be wearing hoop skirts. I mean, that was just something I knew, corsets and hoop skirts. And so I don't normally wear hoop skirts. It's not my normal day wear. And so I got together with the girl that played Cora, my slave, and she was going to have to wear petticoats. And I said, well, we know there's some scenes where you and I are walking side by side, and there's one scene where we're walking side by side and you're carrying an umbrella. Why don't we do the math on that? So we went down to the wardrobe department and asked to borrow a hoop skirt and a petticoat. Now, we can't borrow the actual clothing because, if anything were to happen to it, it's tens of thousands of dollars.
Right.
But we could borrow these things that would go underneath our clothing. So they gave us a hoop skirt and a petticoat to play with, and rehearse. So I was dressed in a Saints t-shirt, football Saints t-shirt, and a hoop skirt with nothing else, nothing over it, just a big white hoop skirt, acetate, and she was dressed in her regular street clothes with a petticoat tied on, and she held an umbrella between us, and we walked down St. Charles in those clothes, and tour buses kept going by, and I was just like, I don't even want to know what they are making of this. Like, I don't even want to guess what they're thinking is happening here. But what they are seeing is a black lady holding an umbrella over a white lady as they stroll in their. It was bad, but it had to happen because there was a lot of math. It's two people sharing this huge amount of stuff going on between. So,
Right.
so there was that. And I also wanted to practice going through doors, sitting down. I should have practiced going up steps more because I didn't realize that my first scene was going to be going up that gargantuan staircase carrying a 15-pound candelabra that was on fire. Yeah, but good that I practiced everything else before that day came, because on the day, my first day of shooting was the hardest hoop skirt scene. The first day of shooting was this giant staircase with stairs that were like bucket stairs, like big stairs that you have to climb. And so I'm holding the skirt with one hand, holding a on fire candelabra with the other hand, which means I'm holding the stair rail with nothing.
Right.
Going up giant steps wearing a bell, so it was good to practice all that. And those are the kinds of things that you get no credit for it when you're on screen. It's not like anybody's going to go, look how she's not falling on her face. Like,
well
watch
done.
her not have the skirt go up when she sits, like, you're not supposed to notice it. You're not supposed to notice all that hard work I did.
And I think that's a really good point to point out to authors as well, because there is so much that goes into making things look so seamless and so easy and so flawless on camera that we just don't know about, or we don't think about, or we don't register as we're then
Yeah.
watching these productions.
Well, and I think most people think that it's about memorizing lines. And as I said before, none of that has anything to do with memorizing lines. And in my book, I talk about the line being "Your martini, sir." So you have one line, and the line is "Your martini, sir." And then I have literally pages and pages of questions to ask yourself about "Your martini, sir," because that could be so many different moments. If you really think about that line, the whole movie could turn on that line.
That's
So
true.
you have to understand what it is your job is, not just the line, but your part. What is your part? Not just your role, but what part of the movie are you? What part of the storytelling process are you? Are you the
Mhm.
comic relief? Are you the sexy wiggle girl? Are you like, what are you? Why are you in the story? And then serve that.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. I feel like you've given us a lot of things to think about when it comes to writing, acting in Hollywood and movie production. Before we let you go, is there anything else we need to know, we need to learn about, things we need to research to really make sure we have a good handle on this?
Well, I want to give you a tip on something that I do to research that any writer can do, and this is in that 6 video course that I've made. That I love people. It's one reason that I want to be so many of them. Want to walk a mile in all of our shoes and experience humanity in a big way. Like the Dalai Lama learns compassion through walking a mile in a million shoes. And I am on that path. I am on that journey of walking a mile in a million shoes and finding out what that's like. So that sometimes gets pretty literal. So, for example, when I was playing a masseuse in For Love of the Game, um, so I had to do relationship work. Kevin and I's characters knew each other, and so we had to work on what was that relationship about, and I changed some of the things in the scene, so there were things to work out with the director and all that. Um, there was a lot to that little part. It was a little part, but it was a lot going on. But I wanted it to be that I wanted masseuses to come up to me in the street and say, "Are you really a masseuse?"
Okay.
And so I got a massage. And I happened to know a bunch of masseuses, so I was able to choose somebody that I felt very comfortable asking questions. But the bottom line is almost everybody likes to talk about themselves and what they do all day. So, I mean, look at me, I'm doing it right now. So I chose a masseuse that I knew would talk to me while I was getting
Mhm.
a massage. And I asked her a million questions and I watched her. Now, can't do a whole lot of watching while you're getting a massage because you know your neck is being manipulated and etc. But I noticed
Right.
one thing she did because she did it throughout. And so when I noticed her doing it, I was like, I'm stealing that. And so I wanted to know if it was real, like if it was like her thing or an average thing, or like how many people know about this thing, because it was a
Right.
shortcut. And I think finding
Okay.
shortcuts is such a cheat, easy way to close the gap between you and reality of that person. Because if I tell you what I do all day, great. But if I tell you a shortcut to how I get that all done in one day, now you know how I tick. And now you know how to
Right.
play me in a way that's unique to me. So she had this thing of that instead of taking the cream and putting it on me, she would take the cream and put it on her arm like this. And then whenever she needed more cream, she would go back to her arm and so that she wouldn't have to keep it kept the cream more it kept the cream warm and
Right.
also on her so that she didn't have to keep going back to the table where the cream was. So
Oh,
I stole that. And when I did it in the movie, sure enough, after that movie, I can't even tell you how many people have come up to me and said that were our masseuses and said, "Oh, I was so amazed that you were. How did you get that role? I mean, you're a masseuse." And I was like, "No, I'm not a masseuse."
no, no,
So,
no.
that was very cool that I fooled people whose job
Right.
it is to do that all day, every day, into thinking I knew exactly who they were and how they do their life. I did the same thing with the crawfish sorting woman on True Detective. I asked the woman who worked in the location where we were shooting. I said, "How do you do your job?" She showed me. And then I said, "Okay, tell me a shortcut, because this seems like a whole lot of work. Tell me a shortcut to get this part done." And she showed me. I said, "Well, what's a shortcut to get this part done?" And she showed me. And that was it. Then I look like I've been there 30 years.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. That is a really good tip just for life in general, but
Oh yeah.
especially for writing as well.
Oh yeah. No, I love an interview. I love a good interview. I love a personal experience of a person where I can just not just ask them questions, but observe them the whole time, look in their space the whole time, like get a sense of them the whole time. Because if I had
Mhm.
asked that masseuse, how do you do it? She would never have remembered that she does this.
Right.
So she wouldn't have told that to me. Because it's like driving a clutch. Not that anybody nowadays knows how to drive a clutch, but I know how to drive a clutch, but it's very hard to explain it because your body just sort of gets into it and you don't think about it. You just do it.
Right.
So,
Mhm.
okay. So here are some um, resources that I use.
Okay.
Uh, I use movies when I want to find out, about what is a average behind the scenes movies moment. I think that's a good place. Other people could look for movies because movies are fairly accurate about movie making. Some that are fairly accurate about movie making would be The Player.
Okay.
Now, that's a lot about studio executives and producers, but very accurate. The Last Shot. The Last Shot is this true story. Matthew Broderick plays a screenwriter, and Alec Baldwin plays an FBI agent, and it's based on a true story of when the FBI made a movie. Um,
Okay.
or almost made a movie, pretended to make a movie. Living in Oblivion is this little independent movie that's about making a little independent movie. Um, the Disaster Artist is, I hate to recommend anything with James Franco since right now he's in the list, but The Disaster Artist is about a real guy played by James Franco, and it's about beyond independent. It's beyond, like, when you have 10 cents and an idea kind of movie making, only this guy actually had money. But the
Okay.
abusive stuff he does, the yelling and all that is very accurate.
Okay.
Mistress is about producers again. It's about, and a screenwriter, and they're trying to get a movie made. And each time they pair up with a producer, he says, "I'll make that movie for you. All you got to do is put my mistress in it." And that sounds like a plot for something that's not going to be a great movie about movie making, but it's incredibly well done. And the
Okay.
Cheryl Lee Ralph plays one of the mistresses, and she's a revelation. She's just perfect. Um, these ones are about actors, and all of those are not, but these ones are about actors. Tootsie. It's an old
Okay.
movie, and it's not really about being an actor. It's a love story about a man who's pretending to be a woman. But uh, the reason that he's in that pickle is because he's an actor, and the scenes where he's being an actor are pretty spot on. Um, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now that's a different era, and it's only men, but that behind the scenes look at Leo's character aging out of his realm and having to face new types of casting for himself as the industry is also aging and facing shifts. That
Mhm.
happens. I don't care if you're in the industry more than 10 years, the industry is going to shift and you're going to feel it.
Yeah.
And then Notting Hill, because it's about the personal life of the actor. And, she falls in love, and it's like terrible news because it becomes all the worst parts of being famous. So, so I think that's it's an interesting look inside of just trying to have a normal day when you're famous.
Fantastic.
And then the other resources, as I would definitely recommend that you look at my book, No Small Parts, An Actor's Guide to Turning Minutes into Moments and Moments into a Career, with foreword by Richard Dreyfuss and endorsements from Kevin Costner, Lou Diamond Phillips, Reginald Hudlin, dozens. And that book It tells you everything from the process of breaking down a character, breaking down a scene, how to get an agent, when to get an agent, why you would want an agent, why you don't need an agent, how to get work without an agent, what to do when you arrive on set, that whole step-by-step, that thing, how to talk to celebrities, the relationship between you and your agents and your managers and all your representation, what to do if you experience harassment, how to get a free dress for the red carpet. Like it's the whole soup to nuts. It's everything. It's everything you need. It's the book I was looking for and never found when I was starting out. And so I put everything that I needed for my career in that book. And then Michael Caine has also written a book for actors that I haven't read, but I've heard does talk about the lifestyle of an actor and some of the details. But one thing I'm an expert on now is how I went from writing one book in 20 years to 5 books in 4 years, because a byproduct of being an actor and a filmmaker for the last decades is that everything I learned in the production world and the screenwriting world, when I fuse that together with everything I knew from getting my master's in creative writing, it's like I put my writing on steroids. Now I know how to do it fast, efficient, and still good. Like I know how to write well, but with a process that is repeatable and easy and fun. And so I wrote an ebook called Writing Unblocked that covers that. And then I have a 6-video course called Creating Characters that's designed for writers, but by an actor, talking about all the methodology. And it's 6 videos worth of ideas of how to break down characters, get into characters, develop characters. Yeah. Research.
Fantastic. And we're going to link all of that in the show notes below. So if you guys want to check that out, we're going to link it down there for you. Where can everybody connect with you online to continue the conversation and to follow along on your journey as you continue to act and to write and to do all of these really cool courses and books and things that you're creating?
Well, probably the best place to go is the hub, which would be lauracayouette.com. That has links to every other thing. But I am on Twitter and I'm on Facebook. I'm not on Insta, but I am. I ran out of time. You have to pick your poisons. But yes, those are the best places. Probably if you go to lauracayouette.com, it has links to all my books. It has links to, hiring me for coaching. It has all my credentials. It has videos, reels, everything. But I also wanted to make sure that I let you know that I can't control the books that are sold on Amazon, but the Writing Unblocked book and the 6-video course, I am going to offer your viewers and listeners, your audience, a 20% off coupon. Yes.
Fantastic. And we will put all of that information in the show notes below. So if you need access to that, you will have it right in the description down below this video. Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been such an interesting conversation. I feel like we've learned a lot, and I loved all of your insight into your acting career. As we sign off today, I want you to give us one quick story that was one of your best memories being on set and creating a movie or a TV show or some type of video production.
Oh, wow. Gosh, that is, the beauty of this moment is that it's hard because there've been many. I know I said some things about how painful this industry can be, but it's so beautiful when it's beautiful. It's so amazing when it's amazing. I've been so privileged. I remember, I'll tell you, there's always something that you go, I can't believe I'm the only person seeing this. But one of my favorites was when we were shooting Django. It was like maybe 5 a.m. Sun hadn't come up yet. We were still taking advantage of the dark. And we were shooting the scene where we're just coming back from Leonardo DiCaprio's character's funeral. So it's me and I think 4 other people, and we're all dressed in black. And we're walking through a cane field heading toward Candyland, which is our plantation mansion. And in real life, we had already blown the mansion up the day before. And so in real life, that plantation, that beautiful plantation that was Candyland, is smoking.
Wow.
It's half destroyed. It's all like, like this, and it's smoking.
Right.
And so there's the cane field behind me and the mansion smoking in front of me. And
Wow.
Quentin yells cut, and during the breaks between takes, Quentin plays music. Well, he doesn't. The sound guy plays music. So he put on Thriller. And Sam Jackson, dressed in his velvet gothic funeral garb, starts dancing the entire video.
Wow.
The whole thing with the
Right.
burned out mansion in the background.
Wow.
And nobody else was watching.
Oh, it is devastating that that's not on film somewhere.
It was incredible. I was like, this is better than, it was just incredible. It was incredible.
If you loved today's episode, be sure to hit that subscribe and notification bell because Laura is coming back for even more episodes talking about her books and talking about developing your stories even better from an actress's point of view. We also want to make sure that you stay tuned for more upcoming episodes of Experts for Authors where we hang out with CIA agents, FBI agents, lawyers, airline captains, and more to help you write more authentically inside of your stories. And daily videos are dropped on the channel to help you level up in your writing and your reading world. Again, if you do have questions about any of the equipment that they use inside of Hollywood, we have links over on our main YouTube channel, youtube.com/KMRobinson, where I break down technology for you in an easy and simple way for entrepreneurs to be using it in their businesses, but also for you to be writing these things into your stories as well. Drop your questions and comments down below, and if you have an occupation you'd like to see on Experts for Authors, let me know in the comments below, and I will start looking for an expert to make sure we're getting your questions answered in real time. We'll see you in the next episode.